earlier to range and an earlier delivery of the money, and hence a earlier delivery pickup of your daughter. And then they go on towards the end of the note here. They basically say, if we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. They do that one more time, and the significance of that is that in the movie Dirty Harry, they do almost the same exact thing. It was basically the same thing. The Ramseys are huge movie buffs. The one thing that a lot of people remember about the tour of the house, it was all over the news. They did the tour of the house, the investigators did with the camcorder. You can see movie posters everywhere, and they were really into movies. So I think a lot of it, like, I believe that Patsy Ramsey wrote this shit.
I do too.
I'm not going to wait till the end to tell you that, because I really believe she wrote it. And I think subconsciously they snuck in some stuff that they had learned basically from watching movies.
Probably.
So
I wouldn't be surprised.
And it goes on to say, too, 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Don't grow a brain, John. Victory, SBTC. Now, that's not the whole note, but that's the gist of the note right there. Now, about the actual physical note, actually came from a notepad inside the house. Everything to do with this case, all the evidence, the garrote, everything on Jonbenet's body, everything used to supposedly kill her, the ransom note, the pen, all came from inside the house. So this guy, if it was an intruder, came in completely unprepared. Complete fucking rookie. If you're coming in and you don't have any kind of implement to kill anybody and you're planning on killing a person, it's ridiculous. And to write a ransom note and then hide the body in the basement.
Right. Not even. There was no hope to begin with if the body's already in the basement.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. But the paper that was used to write the note in a fancy notepad, basically it was next to the phone. It was next to Patsy's phone in the house on her writing desk. They found out that that's where the note came from. Now, the pen came from Patsy's desk, too. A lot of the stuff just came from all of Patsy's shit, so it just makes her look extremely bad here. The notepad was also missing several pages, which that can kind of be explained away because maybe she used them. That's why I didn't really get that as really evidence. Who says that she didn't use them and throw them away? When it comes to the actual notepad, her fingerprints and her DNA is all over the notepad. The ransom note has no DNA on it. All of a sudden, Patsy's DNA is gone off of that note.
So, I mean, would it be suspected then that somebody had to use gloves to rip it out?
They had to use gloves to rip it out, and somehow her DNA is gone from it now. Because her DNA was all over the notepad.
Right.
It should have been all over that piece of paper, too.
Exactly.
So it got wiped clean somehow.
So
and if it was an intruder, why the fuck would they care if it had Patsy's DNA on it?
Exactly.
That would make them look better. That's another thing right there. And there's impressions on the notepad that suggest there was a practice note written. So basically this person, and this note would have taken 20 minutes to pen. That's what handwriting experts have said, that it would have taken 20 minutes to pen this note. So this person had killed Jonbenet, tied her up, threw her in the basement, freaking wrote the ransom note, did a practice note first. They wrote a practice note.
In the 5 hours that all of the Ramseys were sleeping.
Exactly.
I would be pretty freaking rushed if I were that person.
Exactly. If you're going to kill somebody, it's going to be an in and out type of thing. Exactly. If you don't want to get caught. If you want to get caught, yeah, you do the shit that apparently this crazy ass killer did. All right, so the handwriting analysis, we kind of already went over that. John was completely excluded from being the author of the note, because they compared his handwriting to the handwriting and they said that's not even close. That I believe John didn't write that note. But they could never rule Patsy out. Like we said, they could never rule her out for the author of the note. I am a firm believer that to this day she wrote that note.
Me too.
The only mystery in my mind really is how Jonbenet died. Like I said, longest ransom note in U.S. history. Longest ransom note in U.S. history.
There's your balls. Found him.
That'll make it in. I'm not editing that one out. A lot of the wording and vocabulary in the note pointed to the Ramseys writing the note, which, yep, we already went over that. And hence, being a pretentious fucking douchebag. All right,
That's our big faction here.
The foreign faction that only wants $118,000. Can't even buy him fucking goats to fuck. Jonbenet's body. All right, Jonbenet's body. That's the next piece of evidence. There was duct tape on her mouth and around her neck, along with the cord that was around her neck and around her wrists. Now, the big thing about this is that it's around her wrists on the outside of her clothing, and it was not tight. So basically, it's pretty much proven that it was staged, because it was over her clothing, so she would have been able to slip right out of it, because they just pulled the things off of her wrists. It wasn't even a challenge. Those were tied after she was dead. Why you would need to tie somebody up after they're already dead?
Obviously staging.
Exactly. The paintbrush that was used for the garage, it was Patsy's paintbrush, and it was skydiving cord. Well, it was a cord that's used for skydiving. She purchased it from a hardware store a couple days before
and that was
the murder.
she purchased.
And that is the only thing. The thing is the credit card companies back then would not tell you, because they use credit for everything. Most millionaires like that do. They don't actually use a bank account. They use credit cards. She used her credit card to buy this cord, and it doesn't say that she bought the cord, but back then the credit statement from the bank would tell you how much the item was and what section of the store it was bought from. There's been research done that the only thing for like $2.69 or something like that, somewhere around there, it was like $3. The only thing that cost that exact amount of money in that section of the store was that cord, and that's the only thing she bought there. Which, it's just really weird. I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think that was a coincidence. She was probably going to use it for something else. Now, Jonbenet, like we said, she had a nightgown on. Apparently, she had been put straight to bed, been carried inside and put into bed by John. So, I don't know why she had pajamas on, but maybe they stripped her and put pajamas on her. Who knows? But she had her favorite nightgown on. There were no signs of conventional rape with Jonbenet Ramsey. Very big misconception about Jonbenet Ramsey, that she was raped. A lot of people think of the DNA in the underwear and they automatically assume that it was semen. It was, like we said, it was touch DNA. So it was not semen. There was no vaginal injuries that indicated rape. Now, there was slivers found in her vagina that were from the paintbrush. So somebody had stuck the paintbrush in her. And the signs point to it being post-mortem. So somebody did it after she was dead. And there's signs that there was sexual assault going on before that day. There was wounds that were healing. And this is a very hard thing. I understand. I've got a daughter. I've got a stepdaughter, and this is a very hard thing to listen to sometimes. I'm kind of desensitized from all this shit because I sit there and watch serial killer documentaries all fucking day like a psychopath. You know, if this is bothering anybody, you know, you can shut it off right now. I have no problems with that, but this is very graphic. You have to know going into this podcast that it's going to be really graphic because we're talking about Jonbenet Ramsey. Light sexual assault is what they called it.
And what that entails?
We don't know. So, generally, what I think it is it's non-penetrating sexual assault. So, it's something like touching and stuff like that. And who did it? Who knows? There's plenty of theories. We'll go over all the theories too. But her vagina was wiped clean. She had pineapple in her stomach, which is very important. We'll get to that once we do the theories. Very important thing. And it just started to digest. So she had it particularly close to the murder. She had that in her stomach. So she ate that pretty close to her dying. Within an hour or two of her actually being deceased. Because it didn't digest fully yet. And there was no pineapple at the Christmas party they were at. So she had it after she came home, but they claimed that Jonbenet was in bed at 10. She wasn't eating while she was sleeping. Now, the stun gun theory here, there's 2 marks on her side. And this is something that I just found out a couple days ago. And very interesting fact about this. First of all, some people thought it was an intruder because that looked like a stun gun. There's 2 marks on her side.
They're like puncture holes.
There's like puncture holes, yes. And they have taken stun guns and held it up to those holes, and nothing lines up for a stun gun. But for some reason, people came up with the theory that they used the stun gun to subdue her and bring her downstairs. A stun gun ain't gonna subdue you.
No, they
It'll
shock
do
the
the
shit out
opposite.
of you. It'll give you a heart attack, but I mean, it'll startle you. It'll make you more frantic.
Exactly. You're gonna try and get away from it.
Exactly.
The case of Jonbenet Ramsey, very good documentary. Check it out. I had to pay to watch it on Amazon Prime. Rent it. Very, very good. I'm glad I spent like the $6 on it or whatever, because that was very informative. They did a test with somebody to show you exactly what a stun gun does to somebody.
It doesn't leave the same kind of marks.
It doesn't make you pass out.
Right.
Like they're saying it does. It doesn't. Now, I didn't believe that before that, but okay, these marks. Now, they found out that downstairs, Burke had his train room downstairs, which this kid had all these cool trains, which I was super jealous of. Thought it'd be pretty cool to have all those trains when I was a kid, that's for damn sure. But these were the old school trains, if you remember. They were dangerous as hell because they had those tracks that you could take off and like murder a hobo with. They were terrible, but that's what we had as kids.
They were metal tracks, right?
Yeah.
They connected together by metal little pieces.
Yeah, there was 2 metal prongs that would connect into a female version and interlock, you know? So what happened was they took one of the train tracks, because somebody thought about it, took one of the train tracks and held it up to Jonbenet's wounds. It lined up perfectly.
And it also made the perfect puncture holes.
Yes, and it was found out there's no real blood clotting or anything going on.
There wasn't really any bruising either.
No, so they're thinking it happened post-mortem. Now, when you think about it, would an adult, to see if somebody was alive, grab a train track...
I'm just going to jab you in the side just to make sure you're not moving.
Make sure or test to see if you're alive.
I'm going to jab you.
Which kind of points to what my opinion is already. But as an adult, that's not how I would check.
Exactly.
I would check a pulse. Exactly. I wouldn't grab a knife and stab someone. Are you alive? Just start gutting them.
I'm just going to start jabbing you.
So basically it lined up with Burke's train tracks.
Now, is that something that an intruder you think would really do? Honestly?
Exactly. Why would the intruder even try and figure out whether she's alive or not?
I'm going to just, think like a small child.
Why would he stab her with a train track? It doesn't make any sense. Now, the autopsy, the official autopsy, the coroner had already announced that she was dead. All right, and they said it was asphyxiation by strangulation. Now, the full autopsy was done a few days afterwards, and they added craniocerebral trauma, which is basically she got whacked on the head with something pretty hard. There's a giant hole in her skull. Let's put it that way. Basically, that craniocerebral trauma is most likely a really bad blow to the head that made the brain bleed.
That'll do it.
Yeah. So that's basically what was found out after the autopsy.
So what do you suppose would happen first? Do you think that the blow to the head killed her, or do you feel like the strangulation killed her?
I think...
Or is it more simultaneous?
I think she got hit in the head and then choked.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So basically somebody hit her in the head and she was still moving and they went and choked her to death. I don't think they used the garrote. I think the garrote was staged.
Probably.
But I think, like they said, she did die from strangulation. So I think it was a combination of the both. But yeah, I think she got hit in the head and then strangled. It's fucking morbid as shit. It's just, who would do that to a person?
Child.
A person, period. But yeah, a child's even worse. But even to do it to a fucking person's terrible.
Obviously someone that shows no remorse. This person is a
fucking
bad
sociopath.
shit.
All right, so now the suspects. I just have a list of suspects here. So there's not a lot of information on the suspects. That's because it's not pointing towards an intruder. But we have to go through all the suspects because this is a conspiracy asylum and we're going to look at everything. The suspects are the Santa at the Christmas party on Christmas Day. The Santa was Bill McReynolds. He has no criminal background, no previous offenses. Seemed like a straight up nice guy. There was no reason for him. I think the Ramseys and the DA, because the DA were kind of in the Ramseys' back pocket, were just pushing to find somebody other than the Ramseys. The next suspect that was on the list of suspects was a former family housekeeper, Linda Hoffman, who could have been a disgruntled former employee, which that just seems really extreme.
Right.
Again, another person with zero background. No signs of anger problems. that this person isn't going to break into your house and murder and rape your child. Michael Helgoth is the next suspect. He died shortly after Jonbenet's death. He had committed suicide. Now, that one seems a little bit more...
Like he knew something that he shouldn't have.
Exactly. I think that's more of it. I don't think he had anything to actually do with the murder, but I